Recently, Lieutenant Governor of Texas Dan Patrick said, "Oh, the big problem with the reason Texas and I guess other states have an issue with vaccinations and the spreading of the virus." He implied that black people were the issue. Now, he was immediately rebuffed because it turns out that there's a 3-to-1 ratio as far as black people getting COVID, infected with COVID, and being vaccinated as white people. But the one thing that has to be taken seriously is the black vaccination rate is, in fact, here in Texas, and I imagine likely around the country, to be less than that as the white vaccination rates. And there are likely reasons: availability of vaccines, areas where it's easy to just go get a vaccine without a problem. So we know that that people of color in general live in areas that are not very much conducive to getting good health care because, again, there is, in fact, systemic racism in our healthcare system. People don't like to hear the word systemic racism. They don't like to hear that. But when you look at the aggregate outcomes of in hospitals, my personal experience in hospitals and the level of care tells me that it's not just empirical with me, but it is true around the entire country. The statistics prove all of that. That said, that's enough. That is enough. I think it is a miscalculation to think that because black people, because people of color are distrusting of the healthcare system, that somehow that is the real reason why these people aren't taking or getting vaccines. And if you continue to address that in that manner, in my humble opinion, the vaccination rates in the black communities, etc., would continue to falter because it is almost like telling these folk, yeah, you know, the healthcare system don't give a darn about you, so therefore, you know, the vaccine. Remember the Tuskegee study. Remember when you went to the hospital, how you were treated, etc. So why take the vaccine? You know, they're not in healthcare system is not good for you anyway. And a lot of people are thinking that that is the kind of message that these people or that's conducive to these people not taking the vaccine. To which I say, number one, possibly that has something to do with it. But here is the major factor. Nobody is immune to disinformation. And there is every single black person, every single person of color I've spoke to, the biggest factor has been misinformation. Microchips in the vaccine. Remember the Tuskegee study. Remember that there are a lot of other various reasons that are given. But here is the major reason I think, or here is how I think it is easily counteracted. People of color think the healthcare system works better for white people. People of color know the system takes care of them, of white people more so, better than people of color. If that is the case, logic should dictate that you want to do absolutely anything possible not to be placed in the position to be in this hospital. And likewise, assuming that your belief is that the system takes care of white people more so than people of color, then if this vaccine is being taken by white people en masse, it is a reason for people of color to take the vaccine. Likewise, if you don't want to be in the hospital because you know that you are going to get less than optimal care, you want to do what's necessary not to be there. Take the vaccine. So whatever the reason is, like my opinion is that the disinformation has worked perfectly in the black community, just like it worked with Trumpsters. In fact, it has an easier way in the black community because of history. Well, we can use that same history to point out that assuming you're right, which you are, that the healthcare system is not as good for people of color, then if you see white people going in droves for those vaccines. And also, you know that the vaccine is not going to kill you as long as you're getting the same vaccine that they are. And you also know that if the vaccine gives you a lesser chance of going to the hospital, and you know that the hospital doesn't treat you as well as it does white people, isn't it then a good reason for you to take the vaccine? Black people, people of color, do the right thing. Take the vaccine. It'll save your life. It'll keep you out of the healthcare system. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.